All right, guys, I've got a pretty exciting project out here in the shop tonight. I've got this box right here that was delivered today. Actually, both these boxes here. And inside is the Langmuir Systems Crossfire XR CNC table. It's a 4x8 CNC table, and its build is much more industrial than the Crossfire Pro that I've been running for the last year or so. You can see in the background, this is the Crossfire Pro. And I've actually owned a couple of CNC tables before this one, so I have at least a little bit of experience with it. You know, there's certainly better quality builds than this Crossfire Pro, but as far as bang for the buck, I mean, what you get for the money that you spend, I was really impressed. This has been a great table. I've already got a buyer for it. A friend of mine's going to buy it from me, and I'm sure he's going to be perfectly happy with it. It's been a great machine for me, but I really wanted to step up my capabilities and move to a 4x8 CNC table. So when Langmuir announced their Crossfire XR release, I put some money down, and I've been waiting for this thing for months, and it just finally showed up today. So got two crates here, pretty good size. This larger one is 630 pounds, and this one here is 235 pounds. So I'm gonna go grab a pry bar and tear into these things and see what we got. Everything seems to be well packaged in here. We got some cable chain and miscellaneous parts. I'll see if I can find the inventory sheet here, and we'll verify, make sure nothing's missing. Well, I have everything unpackaged out of the boxes and pallets and stuff. I opened up the hardware box right there and kind of spread out the bags of the different nuts and bolts and washers. This is really all that's left of the main pallet. I got the two, end frames here. They're temporarily bolted together. This is the way they ship. And I got all the shrink wrap off of all of this stuff. And I'm ready to start building it. Got my shelves cleared out of here. Got the table moved over to where it's going to be sitting finally. And I adjusted the feet up to get the table so it's not racked anyway. So all these levels are showing level. And went ahead and squared it up, just taking diagonal measurements across the top of the table. Going to tighten up all these fasteners and move on to the next step. All right, we got our gantry uprights right here. Got the gantry up on a couple of sawhorses. And we're gonna slide our carriage assembly on there, bolt those things on, and then move on to the next step. Before I go any further, I wanted to show you guys just a quick look at these things right here. Just, I don't know, the high quality machine parts, the ball bearings, and the belt drive stepper motors here. Just everything looks to be really high quality, and I'm pretty pleased with this purchase so far. Everything's been packaged really nicely. I haven't found a single item that's been damaged. You know, usually when you're doing something like this, you find something that's scratched or dented or bent or something. Boy, everything was just perfectly packaged so far. Haven't found a single instance of any kind of damage. Okay, next we're going to be installing these tubular rails on our frame here. They bolt into the side in these holes here. The distance that these is set apart is critical because the ends of the gantry right here are fixed. They're rigidly fixed in place. So if that distance isn't perfectly set, then there will be binding, and likely the stepper motors will skip and we'll end up with issues. All right, big moment here. I get to install the gantry on my tubes here. I believe I've got my tubes set up at the appropriate distance apart, so it should slide freely without binding. We're about ready to find out. But the gantry appears to roll just fine. Alright, there's some eccentric axles on the back here to take the lash out of these rollers. I'll tighten those up and make sure that this thing continues to move without any binding. Okay, the next step is to install the water table on here, and the water table consists of these 4 pieces right here. On the Crossfire Pro, the table I last had, it came with a 2-piece stainless tray, which I swapped out and made my own single piece. This one's 4 pieces, and it's made out of powder-coated steel. Hopefully it holds up in the CNC cutting environment. So once I screw that table into place, or once I screw that tray into place, the table's there's not gonna be any good adjustments for square anymore. So super important to make sure that this thing's square before that step. So we're gonna do diagonal measurements across the table one more time, and we're gonna get it nailed down to make sure we're dead on. And then we'll set the table into place and screw it down.
So in this step, we're basically just taking all the lash out of the bearings and then making sure that this carriage is square with this surface right here. So right now I can clearly see I've got some space at the top of the square, so I need to tilt this thing this direction. Adjustments are pretty easy on this thing. Not a lot to it. Pretty good to me.
All right, same basic procedure on here. I'm gonna soak these two pieces of felt in oil and then slide this roller nut into this housing, clamp it down. That'll do one side here, then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Okay, we're getting down to the last of the major components here. I've got the cable trays installed, although I don't actually have the cable chain in here and here. And we installed our electronics enclosure right there. This has got the motor controllers, stuff like that in it. And I've got our single board PC installed here. And the last piece that we're gonna bolt on here out of the big boxes is this monitor. Looking forward to this. This is gonna really make the machine look like it's complete. We still got wiring to do and stuff like that, but it's nice to see everything actually together. Well, it looks like a bit of a snafu right now, but I'm working on it. Getting all these cables here properly routed. I have all the ends labeled for what they go to, and I've started to route everything through this cable chain. I popped all the link tops off, and I've got everything appropriately strain relieved. I've got some room on the initial height sensing line here, and then I've got a pretty decent sized loop for my plasma line. I've got kind of a thing monkeyed up right here to help keep that loop vertical. Yeah, so we're just going to keep routing these and clipping the chain links in and zip tying stuff together until we have a nice neat bundle down at the electronics box. Alright, I was working on this thing until like 1:30 in the morning. Feeling a little groggy this morning, but made some really good progress. So we got all of our cables routed in this nice cable chain here, and I got everything plugged in, powered up, set up. The single board PC comes with Windows 10 pre-installed, so I got all that set up. Basically everything set up. I tested the jog functions and the homing functions last night. But I didn't actually do anything else. I was so tired, I pulled the plug on it last night and decided I'd finish it up this morning. So we're going to fill the water table up with water, check for leaks. We're going to run the break-in program on here and just double check the homing feature, make sure that the limit switches are adjusted properly, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so as long as there's no leaks, we can go ahead and fire the table up and make our first cuts today. Well, here goes. We're gonna put a couple of inches of water in here and then cross our fingers we don't see any drips on the floor. You know, it's kind of cool. Now that I've got this PC set up here, I can load the rest of the instructions up on a browser right here. I don't have to walk across the shop like I was. Looking under here, I see water showing up in that far corner, and I have water dripping right here. Now let's figure out what we got going on here. Looks like it's probably leaking from this corner here. But it sounds like it's really pouring out that back corner. Boy, it is. Oh, it's not me, it's there's a crack in the, see if you can see this here. There's a crack right here. Well, we'll have to remedy that. That's alright, that's why we're doing the testing. Let's get some buckets and drain the water back out. Okay, I have all the water pulled out of here. Combination of shop vac and a couple of these big totes right here. Managed to get all the water drained back out. So, the biggest leak is not my fault. This is a factory defect right here. I guess I didn't really notice it when I was shooting the screws in, but there's a visible crack in the caulk and a crack in the corner right here. You know, when I was assembling this table, this seam right here between these first and second trays was the only one that I really had any kind of problem with, so I guess it figures that this is the one I'm going to have the leak in. Now the combination of a file, a knife, some various scrapers, and the vacuum, I've managed to mostly clean this area up. I can't really see for sure where the leak would have been, but we're just going to coat this whole thing in that sealant and basically run it all the way down onto the flat section here, and then sink our bolts back in, and hopefully that'll solve it. All right, we've got everything back together. I got a monster pile of sealant on that seam right there. It doesn't exactly look the best, but you know, after the first few cuts, it doesn't really matter anyway because all this murky slag and stuff gets built up in the table. You won't be able to see it anyway. So as long as it doesn't leak, that's the only thing that matters. Now, unfortunately, there's a 24-hour cure time, so I got to wait till tomorrow to fill it back up with water. Well, the last part of this puzzle is hooking up the plasma cutter. Now, this is not going to be too difficult on this machine. I have a Hypertherm Powermax 65s right there. I had this set up on a CNC table before, so I had already installed the kit, the CPC port kit from Hypertherm. And that's handy because Langmuir provides this pre-made CPC connector. And through that connector, we get a plug to control the torch on-off control, and then also a 50 to 1 torch voltage divider output. And that goes out from the CPC port into this box, and then from the box into the control box right there. So I really don't have any wiring to do. Really all I have to do is just plug everything in, set it up neatly, and then we'll be ready to go. That's really the last step. Now I'm going to place my plasma cutter under the machine in the back corner there. I just know from experience when the torch gets near the edge of the machine, it's going to kind of splash water out, and it's actually safer under there than it is, you know, near the edges of the machine. I'm also going to order a power strip that I'm going to mount just on the inside right here that all this stuff will plug into, so I won't have all these cables and this weird three-way setup here. That's coming as well. I also mentioned that I'm going to put an articulating monitor mount on this. That'll allow me to get the monitor out of the way. You know, when I'm not using the CNC table, I hope to be able to rotate it back over here, give me more access on this side, and same thing. If I need to work over here, I can swivel it around that way. And then the final part of this is the actual voltage divider box, which is right here. It comes with Velcro, which you know, tends to fall off no matter where you put it. I think I'm going to just 3D print a mount for this. It'll be just like a clamshell type mount that just clips over it, that this slides in. I think that'll be the best thing to do. I've got to wait anyway to fill the table up with water and actually do some cutting. So I might as well draw that up and go ahead and 3D print that. So I think let's do that first, get the 3D printer working, and then we'll come back out here and set the plasma cutter up under the table. This is the design I came up with, and it took around 20 minutes to draw in Fusion 360. Basically, it's a 1/8 inch thick shell that follows the outside contour of the voltage divider box. And the only thing that holds it in place is just spring tension. So I drew it with the exact dimensions of the outside of the voltage divider box, so there's some friction as it slides into place. I went ahead and drew a couple of countersink holes inside the bottom, and these use number 10 countersink screws. That way the tops of the screws are below the surface, and when the voltage divider box slides in, it doesn't scrape the tops of the screws. I also want the front of the machine accessible so I can adjust my current for different cuts. I think I'll just face it just like this. I should be able to see it just fine. Okay, everything's kind of tidied up here. My bundle of cables is all zip tied together. All the excess is looped up right here. I think I'm going to put my torch height control module underneath this rail right here. That'll give me room to plug in the input from the plasma cutter and the plug for the electronics box, and then I can zip tie up this torch control module. Yeah, once that's done, really everything will be nice and neat here. There won't be any cables to catch or anything like that. I may also come up with some kind of hanger for my ground clamp. I'm not really sure. We'll figure that out once we start doing some cuts, but yeah, we're getting close. Let's go inside and take a look at the 3D printer, see how close it's getting. This stuff feels like it's setting up pretty good. I may be able to put water in here tonight. What do are you excited about, dog? Huh? Out of the way. Okay, my design's kind of similar to this. I 3D printed this thing here just a little while back, just to hold the power supply for this table right here. Yeah, it says it's 35% done. Looks like we got about another hour and a half till it's finished. Guess it's time for some lunch. Well, the 3D printer is done 3D printing this bracket that I drew up. Looks good. Let's see if it fits. Actually seems a little bit width seems good, but maybe the height's just a little bit off. I need to add a 1/16 of an inch or something. Yeah, the width is perfect. I just need to add like a 1/16 of an inch of height to those flanges. This will probably work fine for me, but I think I'll redraw it anyway, just in case someone else wants the design. Well, it hasn't quite been 24 hours yet, but the sealant seems to be pretty reasonably well cured. I'm gonna go ahead and fill the table back up with water again and check for any leaks. I have all the other wiring done, so as long as the table holds water, we can turn on the plasma cutter and make a couple of cuts. The water's been in the table for about an hour now, and I don't see any leaks showing up. So I've got the hose on. We're gonna finish filling it up. You'll see under here. I would think if there was any leaks, I would start to see some drips showing up by now, but everything seems pretty good. Okay, we'll finish filling the table the rest of the way up, and I'm gonna put some of my sodium nitrite mixture in there, which keeps rust from happening. That way the table fluid can stay in there, and all the bare metal that it touches doesn't rust. It's pretty amazing stuff. If you're interested in it, I got a video on my YouTube channel. I'll put a link to it in the video description with the actual recipe, but it's basically just sodium nitrite and water and food coloring. So. Well, the table's been full overnight, and I have no leaks showing up. All these seams seem to have sealed just fine. No water anywhere under the table. That 3D printed bracket, I went ahead and installed that here with the torchlight control box. So, we're ready to make a cut. Now, I've got a project that I've already got lined up. I've got some 1/8 inch aluminum here. I am making an extended run battery backup system for one of our fire department repeaters. It's located on a mountaintop inside of a cell tower that we lease some space in. So that project's been waiting for this table to finish up, so I'm kind of a week behind here. So let's load the program up and see how she runs. It's just a simple rectangle. It's just basically kind of a stacked tiered system for the batteries. Pretty simple cut. It should just take a minute here, and we can check and make sure that torchlight control and everything's working properly. Sorry about the glare on the screen. Not a whole lot that I can do about that. All right, let us... Basically, I'm just positioning the torch so I'm not wasting any of my material. It looks pretty good right there. So we'll zero our work axes. You can see right here, it basically put the piece that I'm cutting at exactly the right spot on the material. All right, everything's lined up. Let's see what we get. All right, nice. Okay, that really wraps this video up. I know it's a little bit longer video than my normal ones, but this was a big project. I've actually been working on this for over a week, mostly just in the evenings. I'm not really sure my total time. I haven't kept track of it, but I'm guessing around 30 hours. So not the smallest project in the world, but the kit was pretty well designed, so it didn't go together with too many difficulties. Stay tuned. I've got more videos planned with this CNC table. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed.